The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Across the heart of the galaxy, inside a station so enormous it orbited a miniature artificial sun, more than 600 civilizations watched history unfold in absolute silence. Towering crystalline beings stood beside armored insectoid warlords. Ancient machine intelligences floated like silver ghosts above the chamber floor. Even races that had been at war for centuries had agreed to pause their conflicts for one day. Because today, the Galactic Council would decide the fate of humanity. Every camera drone focused on the lone human ambassador standing at the center of the colossal chamber. He wore no ceremonial armor, carried no weapons, and displayed none of the fear everyone expected. His calm expression only made the silence heavier. For weeks, rumors had spread through every star system. Some believed Earth would be welcomed as the newest great power. Others insisted humanity would be placed under permanent military supervision. A few whispered something far darker, that the Council had already chosen exile. No one imagined the truth would be worse. The High Chancellor slowly rose from a throne carved from the fossilized core of a dead star. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into thousands of languages. After careful deliberation, the Galactic Council has reached its final decision. Effective immediately, the species known as humanity is to be excluded from all interstellar alliances, scientific exchanges, military treaties, and commercial networks. A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Then came the final sentence. Earth will stand alone. For a heartbeat, the entire galaxy waited. This was the moment every analyst had predicted would ignite the first true galactic war. Human fleets were powerful. Human scientists were unpredictable. Human determination bordered on madness. Surely they would threaten revenge. Surely they would refuse. Instead, the ambassador gave a slow, respectful bow. On behalf of humanity, he said with an almost gentle smile, "We accept your decision." Confusion rippled across the chamber. No protests. No anger. No desperate pleas. He simply thanked the Council for its time, turned his back on the greatest political body in the galaxy, and walked toward the massive exit doors. Several alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Why did he look relieved? As the doors began to close behind him, the ambassador paused for just a single moment. Without turning around, he spoke one final sentence that was transmitted to every world in the galaxy. "We sincerely hope your future is as bright as you believe it will be." Then he disappeared. Within hours, every human vessel departed Council space. Every embassy was abandoned. Every diplomatic channel went silent. Across countless worlds, celebrations erupted. The troublesome newcomers were finally gone. But far beyond the cheering crowds, hidden deep inside Earth's command complex, thousands of officers watched one encrypted message appear across every screen. Phase 1 complete. No applause followed. Only quiet smiles. Because humanity had never come to the Galactic Council seeking acceptance. They had come to make absolutely certain the galaxy would never look for them when they vanished. The celebration lasted for months. Across the Galactic Council, fireworks illuminated orbital capitals, victory parades filled megacities, and countless news networks praised the decision to isolate humanity. Commentators mocked the humans as an ambitious species that had finally learned its place. Politicians congratulated one another for preserving galactic stability, convinced they had removed the greatest future threat without firing a single shot. Not a single one of them noticed that humanity had disappeared exactly as planned. At first, the silence was comforting. No human merchant ships arrived at trade stations. No exploration vessels requested passage through Council territory. Even the pirates who once avoided human patrol routes seemed strangely absent. The busy communication channels connecting Earth to hundreds of civilizations simply went dark. Good riddance, many leaders said. But 6 months later, strange reports began arriving from the galaxy's outer frontier. An automated navigation beacon near the Orion Expanse suddenly stopped responding. Engineers traveled to repair it, only to find the beacon floating perfectly intact, yet every memory core inside had been wiped clean, as if someone had carefully erased its existence without leaving a single scratch. Days later, a deep space listening station vanished from its assigned coordinates. There was no explosion. No debris field. No distress signal. It had simply ceased to exist. The council dismissed both incidents as equipment failures. Then the disappearances multiplied. Observation satellites, gone. Long-range probes, missing. Entire sensor arrays blinked off the galactic map one after another, always near the forgotten routes leading toward Earth's former territory. Panic began replacing confidence. To calm growing fears, the Council assembled an elite reconnaissance fleet, 20 of the finest warships ever constructed. Their mission sounded simple: travel to the Sol system, confirm humanity's isolation, and prove that the rumors spreading across the galaxy were nothing more than fear and superstition. The fleet reached the edge of humanity's former borders 3 weeks later. Then every captain froze. According to every star chart ever recorded, the sun should have been directly ahead. Instead, there was only darkness. Not empty space. Not a black hole. Something far stranger. The stars themselves seemed to bend around an invisible wall stretching across millions of kilometers. Every sensor returned impossible readings. Light vanished into the darkness without reflection. Even gravity behaved as though reality itself had been folded shut. One nervous officer whispered the words no one wanted to hear. "Where is Earth?" Before anyone could answer, every screen aboard every ship flickered at once. A single line of text appeared in perfect translation. "You were warned not to come looking." Then, from somewhere inside the impossible darkness, something enormous opened its eyes. The bridge of the flagship fell into complete silence. No alarm sounded. No weapons locked onto a target. Every officer simply stared at the main display, unable to understand what they were seeing. Inside the impossible darkness, 2 enormous golden lights had appeared. They looked like eyes, each one larger than a moon, slowly opening beneath the fabric of space itself. They did not blink. They did not move. They simply watched. A chill spread across the fleet. Veteran commanders who had survived wars against planet killers suddenly found their hands trembling. Then every ship's artificial intelligence issued the same warning at exactly the same moment. Unknown entity detected. Size, impossible to calculate. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy's most advanced computers admitted they did not understand what stood before them. Captain Zyron forced himself to speak. "Open every communication channel." The signal disappeared into the darkness. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire fleet shook violently, not from an attack, but as space itself rippled like the surface of a vast ocean. The stars stretched into glowing ribbons before snapping back into place. The giant eyes slowly faded. In their place appeared a single human vessel. It was impossibly small compared to what had just been watching them. Its silver hull carried no visible weapons, no shields, and no military markings. It drifted silently in front of 20 heavily armed Council warships as though they posed no threat at all. A calm human voice echoed through every bridge. "You ignored our farewell." Captain Zyron stepped forward. "What was that thing?" There was a brief pause. "You were never meant to see it." The answer raised more questions than it solved. Behind the lone ship, the darkness began to peel away like a curtain. Beyond it lay a breathtaking sight. The solar system was gone. In its place stretched a colossal network of artificial stars, shimmering gateways, and structures so vast they eclipsed entire planets. Rings of light encircled suns that did not exist on any galactic map. Fleets of elegant human ships crossed space in disciplined silence, each one disappearing through luminous portals leading somewhere far beyond the Milky Way. This was not a hidden colony. It was an entirely new civilization. One built in secret while the rest of the galaxy had been celebrating humanity's exile. Captain Zyron could barely breathe. How long have you been building this?" The human officer smiled, though there was no pride in his expression, only quiet certainty. "Long before the Council cast us out. Your decision didn't create our future. It merely ensured you would never be part of it." Before another question could be asked, every sensor aboard the fleet screamed in unison. Something unimaginably massive was approaching the galaxy. And the humans looked far more concerned about that than they were about the Council's entire armada. The warning arrived before the sensors could explain it. Every display aboard the Council fleet flashed crimson as a deep, resonating tone echoed through the bridge. Officers rushed between consoles, desperately trying to identify the object racing toward the galaxy. But the readings made no sense. "It can't be a ship," one analyst whispered. "It can't be a star either." Captain Zyron leaned over the tactical display. A single object had appeared far beyond the galactic rim, yet with every passing second it grew larger. Not because it was accelerating. Because it was already unimaginably enormous. Then the human vessel transmitted a secure channel. "You have exactly 7 minutes," the calm voice said. "After that, your sensors will no longer be able to comprehend what they're seeing." The bridge fell silent. "What is it?" Zyron demanded. For the first time since contact, the human officer hesitated. "Our oldest mistake." Before anyone could ask another question, the darkness between galaxies split apart like shattered glass. A wave of black light rolled across the void, swallowing distant stars without destroying them. Entire constellations simply disappeared from view, as though reality itself had been folded closed. The Council fleet's computers crashed simultaneously. Emergency backup systems activated. Even the ship's artificial intelligences began repeating the same terrifying phrase. Pattern recognized. Extinction class entity. Captain Zyron's blood ran cold. No such classification existed in any military database. Yet somehow, every AI knew exactly what it meant. The human ship finally turned, revealing symbols etched across its silver hull, symbols so ancient they predated every civilization in the Galactic Council. "We left because we knew this day would come," the human officer said quietly. The Council believed humanity was fleeing rejection. He looked toward the growing darkness beyond the galaxy. "We were buying time." A holographic map burst into existence above the bridge. It showed the Milky Way surrounded by countless neighboring galaxies. One after another. The neighboring galaxies went dark. Not destroyed. Gone. Entire civilizations erased so completely that even their light had vanished from the universe. A stunned silence gripped every officer. "How many?" Zyron asked, barely able to speak. The human answered with a single number. 37. 37 galaxies. Not star systems. Not empires. Galaxies. Before anyone could process the scale of that horror, an ancient emergency beacon hidden inside the human vessel suddenly activated on its own. Its metallic voice echoed across every channel. "Final protocol confirmed. The Harvester has returned. Far beyond the edge of the Milky Way. Something larger than imagination slowly began to move. And for the first time in centuries, the humans looked afraid. No one spoke. The words, "The Harvester has returned," echoed through every bridge speaker long after the ancient beacon fell silent. Even the seasoned admirals of the Galactic Council stood frozen, unable to comprehend what they had just heard. Then, the impossible happened. The stars at the edge of the galaxy began to disappear. Not explode. Not collapse. Disappear. One after another, brilliant suns winked out as though an invisible hand was snuffing out candles in an endless sea of darkness. Every vanished star took dozens of inhabited worlds with it. Billions of lives were erased before a single distress signal could escape. A young communications officer stared at his console, his voice shaking. "Sir, we're receiving emergency broadcasts from every frontier sector." The bridge filled with overlapping cries. Asterisk, "Our star is fading." Asterisk. Asterisk, "Something is blocking the light." Asterisk. "Please, if anyone can hear us." Then silence. Each transmission ended the same way. Captain Zyron felt helpless. For the first time in his military career, there was no enemy fleet to fight, no strategy to deploy, no battlefield to command. They were facing something that ignored the very laws of the universe. The human vessel suddenly accelerated. "Follow us," the human officer ordered. "It's time you learned why humanity chose to disappear." Without waiting for permission, the silver ship plunged through one of the massive luminous gateways hidden behind the veil surrounding the new human civilization. The Council fleet exchanged nervous glances. Following unknown humans into an unexplored region of space violated every military protocol ever written. But remaining behind meant certain death. One by one, 20 warships entered the gateway. Reality twisted. Colors no longer behaved like colors. Time itself seemed to stretch and fold before snapping back into place. When the distortion faded, every officer gasped. Before them floated the largest fleet ever assembled. Millions of human warships stretched across the void in perfect formation. Moon-sized carriers drifted beside artificial planets transformed into mobile fortresses. Countless autonomous drones moved in disciplined silence, while colossal rings encircled entire stars, channeling unimaginable amounts of energy into weapons that had clearly been waiting for centuries. This wasn't an emergency mobilization. This was preparation. Humanity had been expecting the harvester all along. An elderly human admiral appeared as a hologram above the flagship's command deck. His weathered face carried the weight of countless years, but his eyes burned with unwavering determination. "We hoped the galaxy would never have to witness this day," he said softly. "Now, every civilization stands together, or every civilization falls alone." As his words faded, the vast human armada slowly turned toward the darkness beyond the galactic rim. And from that endless void, a single, planet-sized hand reached into the Milky Way. The moment the colossal hand crossed into the Milky Way, every starship in the human armada fell silent. No one fired. No one panicked. Millions of vessels simply held their positions as if waiting for a signal that had been rehearsed for centuries. The council officers watched in disbelief. The hand was larger than planets, its surface covered in shifting patterns that looked less like armor and more like living galaxies trapped beneath black crystal. Wherever its fingers passed, gravity twisted into impossible shapes. Nearby moons were pulled from their orbits like leaves caught in a storm. Captain Zyron whispered, "How do you fight something that can reshape space itself?" The elderly human admiral didn't answer immediately. Instead, he activated a holographic archive that had been sealed for over 15,000 years. An image appeared. It showed primitive humans standing beneath Earth's night sky, gazing at the stars with nothing more than hope and curiosity. "This," the admiral said, "is where our greatest weapon was born." The council officers exchanged confused looks. "Hope?" one asked. The admiral smiled faintly. "No. Curiosity." The hologram changed. It revealed humanity's first deep space explorers discovering strange ruins hidden beyond Pluto, ruins left behind by a civilization older than the universe itself. Inside those ruins was not a superweapon. Not advanced technology. But a warning. When the harvester awakens, no empire can defeat it with force. It feeds on fear, division, and civilizations that stop growing. For centuries, every great empire had believed power came from conquering worlds. Humanity had chosen a different path. They explored. They questioned. They shared every scientific discovery across every colony. While others built larger weapons, humans learned how reality itself responded to intelligence, cooperation, and imagination. Their greatest invention wasn't a cannon. It was a network linking billions of human minds into one living scientific civilization. Every child, engineer, artist, and explorer became part of humanity's greatest defense. The harvester had defeated stronger empires before. But it had never faced a species that refused to stop learning. Suddenly, warning sirens erupted across the fleet. "The harvester is accelerating," an officer shouted. The enormous hand closed into a fist. Entire sectors of space began collapsing inward. Stars bent like reflections on disturbed water. The human admiral looked across the assembled fleets of every civilization. "This battle cannot be won by humanity alone." He opened a galaxy-wide communication channel. "For generations, we stood apart because you feared what we might become." He took a slow breath. "Today, I ask only one question. Will you stand beside us, or watch the universe end?" For a heartbeat, the galaxy held its breath. Then, one by one, alien warships from every former rival empire broke formation and moved forward to join the human line. The final battle for the future of every living civilization had begun. For one breathtaking moment, the galaxy stood united. Thousands of fleets. Millions of warships. Hundreds of civilizations that had spent centuries fighting one another now faced a single enemy. Across the endless void, ancient rivals locked weapons on the same target instead of each other. The silence before the battle felt heavier than the weight of entire worlds. Then, the harvester moved. Its planet-sized fist opened, revealing a sphere of absolute darkness floating in its palm. It wasn't a weapon, it was an absence. Wherever the sphere drifted, reality simply ceased to exist. Entire squadrons vanished without explosions, without debris, without even a final transmission. "There, erased," Captain Zyron whispered, horror filling his voice. Human commanders reacted instantly. "All fleets. Do not engage the sphere. Follow formation Helios." Millions of human ships shifted with impossible precision, weaving through space like a single living organism. Alien admirals struggled to keep pace, but the humans transmitted their battle algorithms in real time, allowing every allied fleet to move as one. For the first time, the galaxy wasn't fighting as separate empires. It was fighting as one civilization. The Harvester answered with unimaginable force. Its towering form unleashed waves of distorted gravity that ripped apart moons and shattered asteroid belts into clouds of molten stone. Entire stars flickered violently as space itself screamed under the creature's influence. Yet the United Fleet held. Human carriers deployed billions of autonomous drones, not to attack, but to build. Within seconds, enormous energy lattices stretched across the battlefield, connecting the weapons and shields of every allied fleet into one vast defensive network. Captain Zyron stared in disbelief. "They're turning all of us into one fleet." The elderly human admiral nodded. "That was always the plan." Then he issued the order humanity had waited 15,000 years to give. "Activate Project Dawn." Across the battlefield, the colossal stellar ring surrounding dozens of captured suns roared to life. Rivers of golden energy surged through the network, converging toward a single point before the Harvester. The darkness surrounding the creature trembled. For the first time, it stopped advancing. A deep vibration echoed across the galaxy, not through space, but through every conscious mind. The Harvester was speaking. "Impossible. The divided have become one." The human admiral looked toward the ancient cosmic giant, his voice calm despite the storm raging around him. "No. We simply remembered what you forgot. Hope grows stronger when it's shared." The sphere of darkness in the Harvester's hand began to crack. Tiny fractures spread across the impossible void, releasing blinding streams of light. Every soldier watching the battle realized the same astonishing truth. The Harvester could be wounded. And as the first crack widened into a blazing fracture, something even more terrifying stirred deep within the creature's chest. Something that had been imprisoned there since the beginning of time. A crack of pure white light burst from the Harvester's chest. The battlefield froze. Millions of soldiers, human and alien alike, shielded their eyes as the blinding radiance spread across the darkness. The monstrous giant staggered for the very first time, its planet-sized body trembling as if something inside was desperately trying to escape. "What is happening?" Captain Zyron asked, barely able to breathe. The elderly human admiral stared at the unfolding miracle with quiet recognition. So, the legends were true. The light exploded outward. A graceful figure, woven entirely from living starlight, emerged from within the Harvester's chest. It wasn't a prisoner in chains, it had been imprisoned by fear itself for countless ages. Every translation system in the galaxy activated automatically. The being spoke only 4 words. "Thank you, for remembering." At that instant, the Harvester let out a roar that shook entire star systems. The black crystal covering its body began to shatter into billions of fragments, revealing not a monster beneath, but an ancient guardian. Thousands of civilizations watched in stunned silence as forgotten memories flooded every archive, every artificial intelligence, and every living mind. The Harvester had never been born evil. Long before recorded history, it had been created to protect life across the universe. But after witnessing endless wars, greed, and civilizations destroying one another, it had concluded that intelligent life would always bring its own extinction. To save the universe, it had chosen to erase every advanced civilization before it could repeat the cycle. For millions of years, no empire had proven it wrong. Until today. Humanity had done what no weapon, no superpower, and no ancient empire had ever accomplished. They had united the galaxy. Not through fear. Not through conquest. But through trust. The darkness surrounding the ancient guardian dissolved into countless streams of light that scattered among the stars, restoring worlds that had vanished moments before. One by one, extinguished suns blazed back to life. Lost colonies reappeared as though time itself had reversed. The war was over. But something even greater had begun. Centuries later, children from hundreds of species would visit the former Galactic Council Hall, where a single bronze statue stood at its entrance. It did not depict a warrior. It did not depict an emperor. It showed a smiling human ambassador quietly walking away from the council chamber. Beneath the statue, only one sentence was engraved. The day the galaxy rejected humanity, was the day humanity saved the galaxy. And every student who read those words learned the greatest lesson in galactic history. True greatness is never measured by how many choose to stand with you. It is measured by what you continue to build, even when you must walk forward alone, ****. As the camera pulled away from the glowing Milky Way, the stars shimmered brighter than ever before, because this time, they were no longer divided by fear. They were united by hope.